Recap in minutes. Today we will be going through a thriller, war, drama and action movie from 2014 entitled, American Sniper. There will be spoilers ahead in this video, so chill out and enjoy. The movie begins in a war-torn area of Iraq, where a U.S. military convoy is passing through the ruins. A sniper named Chris Kyle is positioned on a rooftop to ensure their path from any attack. While talking to his guard, he sees a military-aged man appear on a rooftop and starts talking on his phone. Chris suspects his actions and reports to his control room. They authorize him to shoot him if he is reporting the troop movement. Suddenly the man steps off and a woman and kid come out of that house. Then she hands the kid a Russian-made grenade and runs towards the convoy. Chris reports this and asks for permission to shoot, but they say this is his call as per the protocol. Now his aide warns him that they will send him to the prison in Leavenworth if he is wrong. When he is about to press the trigger, the movie goes back to a year when Chris was young, and hunts with his father. He accurately shoots and kills a deer, and his father congratulates him on his excellent shot, telling him he has a gift of this accurate shooting, and that he is going to be a fine hunter someday. Later at school, Chris intervenes to protect his younger brother Jeff from a larger kid, defeating the bully in a physical confrontation. In the following scene, their father imparts a crucial lesson, explaining the three types of people in the world: sheep, wolves, and sheepdogs. Sheep are those who deny the existence of evil, wolves are predatory individuals committing evil deeds, and sheepdogs possess the aggression and bravery to protect the world from evil. When they get young, Chris engages in rodeo competitions, with his younger brother accompanying him as they travel together. One day, when they come home and watch TV, they see the news of some terrorist attacks on the U.S. embassies in Tanzania and Kenya. He gets up from the couch and asks his brother that they should do something for the country. The following day, he visits a U.S. Navy office and asks the recruiter about any openings. The recruiter suggests that Chris might find the SEAL program interesting and hands him a pamphlet. Chris expressed his interest in joining that program, and after some time, his intensive training starts at the recruitment center. He also faces verbal challenges from the officers overseeing training, who mock him for being deemed too mature to become a SEAL at the age of 30. He also gets sniper school training after that, which shows good results and the trainer appreciates him. One night, he meets a woman named Taya. He offers her a drink in the bar and asks for a night out. She declines but gives him her number when he says he is a Navy SEAL. He persistently calls her until she finally agrees to go out with him. As their relationship develops, she asks him if he ever thinks about who will be at the end of his gun in the war. He says he does not know. He hopes he can do his job when that day comes. They spent some time together, and one day, they saw the September 11th attacks on the Twin Towers. This makes Chris sad again. After some time, Taya and Chris marry, and he informs her that all of his team members are going to the war in Iraq. The next moment, they are on their first tour in Fallujah, Iraq. His instructor gives a briefing on their mission in the city, to protect the Marines and the convoys at all costs. The city has been evacuated, and if there is still any military-aged man there, he is a threat. Now the movie goes back to the opening scenes where he is watching a kid and the woman with a grenade. Chris pulls the trigger and kills the boy, while the woman starts wailing and runs toward the boy, picks up his grenade, and gets ready to throw it at the convoy. Timely shot by Chris saves the convoy from the grenade explosion. Chris continues to provide cover for the convoys and troops. He eliminates the potential threats and the targets. His fellow soldiers appreciate him for his services. After a while, his wife, Taya, tells him that his younger brother is also deployed in Iraq. This makes him worry and he hangs up the call. Later, they get a briefing from the major about their next mission. He orders them to find, capture, or kill Abu Musab al-Zarqawi. He tells them that he is the crown prince of al-Qaeda in Iraq and has an army of 5,000 militants around him. He says any military-age male would be their target without any discrimination. After that meeting, he goes back to his post to provide the overwatch. His guard talks about an al-Qaeda sniper named Mustafa. He says he has won the gold medal in the Olympics and he does not miss his target. Meanwhile, Chris notices that he is needed on the ground to teach the search Marines some techniques. He abandons his post, joins the search team, and teaches some secure tactics. They find a family in a house and interrogate them why they didn't evacuate with the other citizens. They say it is their home and they are going to abandon it. And the man tells them that he is afraid of the butcher, al-Zarqawi's number 2 man. He threatens them when he comes to their home. Chris says they are after every man of Zarqawi and asks for his butcher's address, contact, or any valuable source. He says he can give the information but he wants $10,000. Chris agrees to give him that amount, and the man gives him a source's name. Chris's team comes back to the base and has to run their intelligence, and the information turns out to be useful. So their team gets the cash and an officer and goes back to the man's house again. When they reach his area, their vehicles get attacked by the butcher and his terrorists. The sniper, Mustafa, starts to kill the Marines one by one. Chris tries to locate the sniper with a mirror but he also gets attacked by him. Somehow he manages to get on a rooftop, and sees the butcher has found out that the sheik gave up information to the troops. He threatens the man, but he kills the man's young son. He also shoots the man and yells not to contact the US military anymore. The butcher and Mustafa get away from the area unharmed. More troops arrive and Chris and his men get back to the base safely. After some time, he gets back to the US where his pregnant wife receives him. A few days later, they have a baby and congratulate each other. Months later, he again came back to Iraq for his second tour. After his deployment, he sees his younger brother marching with some other Marines to go back home. Chris cheerfully greets Jeff, who remains unchanged. He is much more battle-worn and hates being in Iraq. After he is gone in his C-130, Chris sits with his colonel, who tells him that he is the most wanted man in Iraq now. He assigns him a mission to hunt the butcher at all costs. Then he starts searching for this man along with his team. One night, when they're on their mission, the team gets intelligence to search the area to find the butcher. The team breaks into a home across the street. When they show him Butcher's picture, the man who lives there with his family says that they have no knowledge of any man like him. The team stays with them and watches the building from their home. While at night, the man tells them that it is Eid al-Adha and he wants to invite them to be his guests at dinner. Chris and the other members join them for a meal. While eating, Chris notices the man reaches down the table to his son and his rubbed elbow. This is how Chris gets the idea that the man might not be as innocent as he shows. Chris gets up under the pretense that he's going to wash his hands and searches his flat. Eventually, he finds a hidden compartment on the floor filled with guns and weapons. He returns to the dining table, grabs the man, takes him to the other room and shows him what he has found. After his cover is blown, Chris forces the man that he will help his SEALs get into the building. Then at gunpoint, they force the man to knock on the door. The door opens to allow him in, as he is clearly known to the people inside. Then the sniper takes out the door opener. The man grabs the door opener's gun and tries to shoot at the SEALs, but the sniper takes him down too. The SEALs enter the building and start shooting everywhere. They clear the rooms of that safe house and look for the butcher, who escapes through back tunnels. Chris follows him in the streets and shoots his van. Ultimately, he blows up his van that kills him. Meanwhile, the locals gather to protest the killing of one of their neighbors. Sensing the urgency of the situation, they head back to the base. At that moment, the man's wife informs Mustafa about Chris, who climbs the rooftops to kill him. Fortunately, he could not shoot Chris and they evacuate the street safely. When he comes back home again, he is a bit changed. While waiting for his wife, a Marine recognizes him and comes to him. He reminds him that he saved his life back in Fallujah. He thanks him for his life and salutes him, calling him the legend. Then he and his son go to see his wife after the labor. He is surprised to see that his wife gave birth to a baby girl. He thanks his wife, but she requests him to come back to the family. The war is changing him a lot. After his short stay, his third tour starts in Iraq. While they are on their mission to hunt Zarqawi, one of Mustafa's informants calls him about the convoy. He immediately gets his gear and gets on his mission to kill Chris. He jumps over multiple rooftops to take a good position to shoot him. Chris is in the Humvee with a driver named Giggles. Meanwhile, a van appears in front of them and the terrorists start shooting them. They block their way, so they have to come out to clear it. They follow them in a house, and when they reach the rooftop, Mustafa shoots Giggles in the face. They rush him back to the base where he goes into surgery. While waiting outside, they try to figure out what happened there. After getting some clues about the sniper, Chris asks them to go back to kill the sniper. When they get there, they start searching the buildings. Meanwhile, Mark is shot in an ambush and gets killed there. Chris comes back again to his funeral. Taya asks him what happened to him. He opens up saying that they were operating out of emotion, and they walk into an ambush that killed him. He pays a visit to Giggles too in the hospital. He tells him that those bad guys are hidden in the Sadr city, and the US military will wall them in and hunt them down. When Giggle asks him not to go back, he refuses, saying that he is his brother and they have to pay for what they did to him. Chris tells his wife about his fourth tour of Iraq. Taya fights him over his decision and warns him that if he leaves again, she and the children will not be waiting for him when he returns. He tries to calm her down at the end. After some days, he is on his fourth tour in Iraq. While conversing with another SEAL, he learns the unsettling news that Giggles has passed away during a recent surgery. The revelation leaves him in shock, and he remains silent for a moment. Later, he positions himself on a rooftop and observes a terrorist with a rocket launcher. With a well-aimed shot, he eliminates the threat. However, the situation becomes challenging when a young boy appears and picks up the launcher. Chris, reluctant to harm the child, watches with a heavy heart. Fortunately, the boy drops the launcher and runs away, providing Chris with a sigh of relief. Moments later, their colonel briefs them that engineers are trying to construct a wall around the city, but a sniper keeps picking them off from over 1,000 yards away. Chris asks him if it is Mustafa. The colonel says he does not care who he is, he just wants him to be eliminated. He also warns them of a sandstorm. Now the team is sent and they head out into the city. Chris takes his position on a rooftop, aiming at the direction they believe the sniper is. However, Mustafa moves in another direction and kills another engineer. Chris and his SEAL team member immediately change direction to the east. After adjusting his scope, Chris says he spotted Mustafa about 2,100 yards out. The other sniper team does not believe him. They don't think he can see Mustafa, let alone shoot him at that distance. Meanwhile, the control room informs them about the insurgents walking around the building. One of the SEALs encourages him to take the shot if he believes he can do it. Chris confirms and asks the control room to initiate the QRF. Then he takes the shot and kills Mustafa. And now the insurgents hear the gunshot and swarm the roof. They engage in a heavy gunfight with the terrorists. Chris calls his wife Taya in emotions and tells her that he's ready to come home. The men shoot their way off the roof as the backup finally arrives, as does the sandstorm. The men try to run into the vehicle, but they have little to no visibility. The SEALs run into the truck, but Chris falls behind when he's shot. They slow down for him and he barely makes it back into the truck. Months later, Chris returns home, but he is troubled with the war. A psychiatrist helps him in his readjustment to home life. He finally regained himself playing with his children and connecting with his wife. He teaches his young son to hunt. One day, when he is back to his family, he tells his wife that a Marine's mom reached out to him asking if he would help her son, who's been struggling since his return. He says goodbye to his family and opens the door. A visibly uneasy young man waits for him by his truck, while Taya watches him closing the door. The movie ends when it is revealed that the troubled young Marine killed Chris Kyle that day, and the Americans pay tribute to him after his death, waving flags and his pictures everywhere on the roads. Thanks for watching. Subscribe Recap in Minutes for more videos like this, and help the channel grow.